All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am showing 2 o'clock. So you know what 2 o'clock means? You know what 2 o'clock means? Do you know what 2 o'clock means? It's time to get this show on the road. So we can kill the lights back there. Let's get the show on the road. So I want to thank you all for being here. For those of you online, I see you online. I'm looking at you online. Yes, thank you for being here too. This is going to be an exciting meeting. I think it's going to be a great meeting because you know why? Couple things happening here. First of all, we've moved to we're a different room in the new Brighton Community Center. We're almost at capacity here. This room is almost packed, which is very cool. And on top of that, there's at least 5 or 6 faces here that I don't think I've ever seen before. So a lot of new people coming in. I know there's 3 or 4 faces that I haven't seen in a long time. So it's really exciting here in New Brighton. And we're actually, what's our count online? What's our online? 10. We had 10 online. So very cool one. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you guys coming out. So my name is Tom Maher. I'm the Minnesota MUFON State Director, and I'm going to ask if you would please put me over to my slideshow, please. All right, so we want to start off by our meeting today. Our meeting sponsor is Bob Schultz. So he's sponsoring the Zoom aspect of it. So he's paid for the Zoom for this month. That's Bob Schultz. Bob is a longtime member of ours. He's been a field investigator. He's done a lot of work for CTV, public access television, doing lots of UFO shows on there. He's one of our tech guys. Great guy. We're glad to have him on board. So Bob is paying for a few months worth of our Zoom meetings. Let's give Bob a big round of applause. So if you want to sponsor our monthly Zoom meeting, it's $13.49 per month. Or if you want to donate to our joke of the month, you can sponsor our joke of the month for just $10. Get you to donate to sponsor our joke of the month. So to donate to Minnesota MUFON, you can contact Jan Swenson at jan.swenson.pioneer@gmail.com. I want to mention that email a couple more times. So I don't feel like you need to get it down right away. And I do have a joke of the month for this month. I think it's a funny one. I think it's a good one. You guys might get it though, but we'll get there when we get there. So now you're all warmed up and ready for the good joke of the month. So we still appreciate and need your donations to continue to bring programming every month. So MUFON members, when you come to this meeting, we ask for a $5 donation. And if you're a non-member, it's a $7 donation. And of course, if it's your first time here, we waive that donation. You get in for free. So to continue to support Minnesota MUFON and our fine programming, you can contact our treasurer, Jan Swenson, again at jan.swenson.pioneer@gmail.com. So we accept PayPal, Zelle, credit cards, personal checks, and cash. And of course, your kindness is always appreciated. And really, I said this a lot last month, but some new faces here. You guys have been very, very, very kind to us. You guys have donated a lot to us to help support us. We do genuinely appreciate that. That's just not the platitude we put on the screen. We genuinely appreciate your support. So thank you very much for that. Like I said, bring a friend to MUFON. So Minnesota MUFON has a new program called Bring a Friend. So your friend can attend one of our meetings without the need to donate. That's right. We'll forego the normal non-MUFON member donation fee of $7 and let your friend attend for free. No charge, nada. Each time you bring a new friend, someone that hasn't come to the meeting before, that new friend will be able to enjoy our meeting for free. It doesn't get any better than that. And if you're not coming with a friend and you're a first-time member, we still waive that fee for you. So like I was telling a couple people earlier, so that's in case, you come here for the first time, and if we're all a bunch of crazy whack jobs, you just want to get out of here, you didn't lose $7. But if you had a lot of fun, the next time you come, we ask for a donation, so we appreciate that. So the first one's on us. So hopefully you'll come back and see us again. Okay. Yeah. So it's always a good day to log on. Did I skip one? No, so, okay. Always a good day to log on to MUFON University. So this is directed to our field investigators. So MUFON collects UFO sightings from around the world. We assign them to field investigators, and field investigators go and investigate those sightings. So MUFON University is where our field investigators go to get their training. So log on to MUFON University. MUFON University, you can check your dashboard, read about MUFON University, take Astronomy 101, explore field investigator training, take professional development courses such as MUFON Leadership Style Assessment, Presentation Design 101, Public Speaking 101, Space Exploration 101, technology classes such as computers and software applications, and a lot more. And as we've just done a whole big revamp on MUFON University. So all new stuff out there. So any field investigator, there's definitely new stuff out there, new classes you haven't taken yet. So feel free to go ahead and check that out. And not to put anyone on the spot or to threaten anybody, but you know what? They send me a report every month now telling me how much time each field investigator has spent in MUFON University. So I'm going to know what you've been up to and who's been in there and who hasn't been. So I want to see all those numbers up. So thank you for that. And consider becoming a MUFON field investigator. So we have field investigators, but I've never had any chief investigator tell me that we've got too many field investigators. We could always use more. We always welcome more field investigators. So there is a process to become a field investigator. If you are curious about that, you can always ask me. One of our chief investigators, Bill McNeff, is right here in the blue in the second row. He can also answer any questions. We'd happy to tell you all about how to become a field investigator. And I think that pamphlet, do we have some of those pamphlets right over there on the table too? We do. So we've got that pamphlet is actually on the table too, which has some great information about how to become a field investigator, if that's something you're interested in. And of course, one of our goals is we educate the public. So we do this presentation on Saturday, second Saturday of every month in New Brighton, but we do custom presentations too. So if you know a group that would like a presentation from Minnesota MUFON, could be a church group or a book club or a Lions Club, a benefactors club, a Rotary Club, science club, social clubs, Knights of Columbus, schools, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or other. We'd be happy to do a custom presentation for your group. We'd be happy to come out and do that. We do that at no charge. We might, I don't know if we don't normally ask for donations for that either. We'd love donations if you want to give it to us, but we don't normally ask for that. But yeah, we'd come out and do a presentation for your organization, and it's a lot of fun. Mike and I did one a couple of years ago. Did you have a good time at it, Mike? Yeah. No, Mike, I had a lot of fun. I was screwed. Mike had to clean up my mess. So that was no fun for him. I made the big mess, so I had a lot of fun, but Mike had to clean it up, so he had no fun. So yeah, it was a good time. I think it was a Rotary Club, I think, wasn't it? Lions Club. Okay, yeah, it was a good time. So let's see. And we'd love you to become a MUFON member. So we've got a few different MUFON memberships available that I want to tell you about. The basic membership is $6.89 per month or $59.88 per year. So that's the e-journal. So that you get the journal online. You don't get the hard copy journal. You just see it online. If you want to, you can add an additional $29 a year, and they'll send you the hard copy journal. We've got some good samples of the hard copy journals over there if you want to take a look at them. Full color, really nice journals. And actually, I'm going to show you some what our old journals used to look like, and our current journals are so much better than the old ones. The old ones are like black and white and drawings and stuff, but I'll show you that later. But the current ones are up there, the really nice full color journals. So our next membership type is the enhanced for $10.99 per month or $119.88 per year, and that you already get the hard copy journals. There's no additional $29 fee for the hard copy journal. You get annual members only, the e-journal, regular email updates, access to the members only section of the website, and on and on. So. And then our next membership is the VIP membership for $299.88 per year. So you get all this stuff. Does not include the field investigator training manual, because that question comes up a lot. If I'm paying this much, do I get the field investigator training manual as well? No. A couple of reasons. Because one, you might not want to be a field investigator. So why are you paying extra to be a field investigator if you're not getting that? And then of course it's it is separate. It's a separate membership. And getting the field investigator manual is not a guarantee you'll become a field investigator, so we wouldn't want to like imply that with that membership price. So $299 or $88 per year. And then our biggest membership of all, we've got the researcher membership for $399.88 per year, and you get all. And I think if I looked at the screen, there's like more stuff down below this, but there's so much stuff in there. You get the hard copy monthly journal, regular email updates, MUFON hat, MUFON mouse pad, just a whole bunch of stuff. So you can go online and check out what this is. You will get access on this. You do get access to the Aquarius Research Library, and I will talk about Aquarius a lot this month. I talked about it a lot last month. I'm going to go through it all again this month, and you'll know why I'm going to go through it all again this year. But you'll get access to Project Aquarius Research Library too. So here's our fantastic hard copy journal. That's our current February journal. So UFO spotting in California, 2023, a statistical year in review, and the battle for disclosure, and returning to Venus. And you don't need to memorize what this. Oh yes.
Do they stop doing life memberships?
Yes, they did. They no longer do lifetime memberships. Yep. So you're lucky you got one while you could, Mike Harris. So Mike Harris, one of our lifetime members. Let's give Mike Harris a round of applause for being a lifetime member. Mike appreciates it whenever I can get everybody to give him a round of applause. We try to do that whenever we can. So remember what this cover looks like. You don't have to remember the details, but because I'm going to show you a cover from like 1971 or 72, very different. Our journals look much better now than they used to. So let's see. So our monthly sky watch. So this is available in the journal, but I also like to share it with everybody when they come in. So in February, we've got on the 7th, that's already passed, conjunction and close approach of the moon and Venus visible in the dawn sky. On the 9th, so last night we had the new moon. On the 14th, we got a conjunction and close approach of the moon and Jupiter visible after the dusk in the western sky. On the 16th, we got a close approach of the moon and M45, the Pleiades. I can say that, I really can, Pleiades. An open cluster, both objects will be in the constellation Taurus, visible through binoculars or with the naked eye in the dark sky areas. On the 24th, we got a full moon known in the early Native American tradition as the snow moon. So updates for space launches can be seen there in the monthly sky map at skymaps.com/downloads.html. So that's what's happening in the sky this month. And it's again available in your journal, but I do like to share it here at the meetings too. So those are the various MUFON membership opportunities. So if you want to join any of those, go to MUFON.com/join, and we'd be happy to have you as a member. And I want to make this clear too, because this question comes up occasionally. I joined MUFON.com. How do I become a Minnesota MUFON member? Well, as it is right now, when you join MUFON.com and you enter a Minnesota address, they automatically make you a Minnesota member. So it's not like a separate membership. I've heard some chapters do have separate membership fees for their members, but in Minnesota, when you join the global organization with a Minnesota address, you're automatically considered one of our members. There's no additional or extra fees for that. So. Oh, let's see what we got next. MUFON is, so here it is. This is the Project Aquarius digital library. So it doesn't look like that. So it's not like physical rooms you can go to, but this is a project that MUFON's been working on for quite some time. And really what part of why it came about is we were founded in 1969. So we've been around for a long time. And we would get questions from people saying, hey, you guys have all this data, you have all this information. Why aren't you sharing it with the people? Why aren't you sharing it with the public? How come we never get to see any of that? This answers that question. So for I think it's $50 per year, you get access to all seven. Actually, you get access to all 7 rooms. One of them is free to everyone all year round. But if you want access to the other 6 rooms, it's $50 per year. So we're going to talk about each and every one of these rooms. Let's jump into Project Aquarius is the largest online UFO UAP research library, so providing MUFON members with multiple forms of historical printed materials like magazine articles, newspaper clippings, databases, photos, videos, interactive maps, donated private collections, and any other type of media regarding the UFO UAP phenomenon. So that's what Project Aquarius is all about. We've been spending years trying to pull this all together. Yeah, decades, with never publicly available content anywhere, as well as historical and modern searchable content. Without the cooperation of other world UFO groups, private citizens, and many, many, many volunteers, this project would never been able to come to realization. So MUFON thanks all of you. So here's the first room we're going to talk about is the Mars room, which is MUFON Archive Research and Reporting System. There's over 6,000 pages of sighting reports from 1967 all the way up through 1995. We're going to keep adding to that, but so that room has got all over 6,000 pages of reports that MUFON has received. Our next room is I love this, the Witness Sketch Gallery. So we've got, when people submit reports to us, they can submit photos, they can submit other documents. They can also put in their sketches and load their sketches to us. So we've taken those sketches, we've scanned them, we've put them in the sketch gallery. So we've got over 7,000 illustrations from over 135,000 reports in our database. And that is one of them. Caveat though, I don't think all the pictures look that good, but that's a nice example of a picture that that a witness submitted. And I'll be honest with you, I look through the cases sometimes and look at what people submit for their drawings and that. And some of them I see them and go, wow, I mean, they're really good. I'm going, this person they spent some real time really doing a nice job on this picture. I can't imagine they would do that if they were just making this up. I can't see someone making it up just doing a really, really nice drawing like that. I've seen that on a number of occasions, but and I'm not going to verify that this is in there because I'm betting it is, but I can't verify it. I talked about a Minnesota case when I was doing historical cases. I talked about them a few years ago of a person that said the UFO they saw, they described it as, I saw the Starship Enterprise. Which was like really kind of and they submitted a drawing of it. The drawing wasn't as good as this, and it didn't look exactly like the Starship Enterprise, but I looked at it and went, I can see what they're talking about. It does look like Starship Enterprise a little bit. So that was actually a Minnesota case. I don't know that it's in the gallery, but it's attached to one of the cases. So my assumption is it is in the gallery. So that was kind of a cool drawing. Not as well done as this one, but it was a really cool drawing from Minnesota. And the news clippings gallery. So the news clippings gallery, that's free for everyone all year round. Anyone can go to this gallery and see that right now. So we've got a news clippings. We'll find articles from APRO, which is the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, files and bulletins, historical accounts of orbs and general UFO articles from newspapers and magazines. So this is a public domain library, so it's absolutely free. You can go check this out today. Does not require the subscription. And it contains 8,867 articles. 8,867 articles. I mean, it's got a lot of data there. So, and then that's just one of the 7 rooms. So you think of $50 a year, how much information and data you're getting. And like, again, this one, there's no charge. Anyone can check that out right now. And of course, the MUFON Journal. See the MUFON Journal? That is one of our journals from I can't say if it's 1967. So we've got all of our historical journals from 67 all the way up through 2010. We're going to keep adding journals up to the current ones, but that's what we've got in there so far. And as you can see, they weren't as technicolor and beautiful looking as they are now, but still good information, good content on it. And I know some of you are new here, but I'm assuming the people who've been here before, but are you familiar with the name Stanton Friedman? Stanton Friedman? People know Stanton Friedman? Okay, so Stanton Friedman used to be a member of MUFON, and he used to write regularly for our journals. If you want to see Stanton Friedman's writings, go through some of our journals. I'm not sure when Stanton passed. It wasn't, it was in the past. Yeah, what's that? I was gonna say, I think it was within the past 10 years because I remember seeing him at a symposium. So he'd been writing for our journal, I think all the way up until the time he passed. So, and if you know Stanton or at least familiar with his work, he's always got he's got a little dig. He's got some good scientific background on what he's doing. So I always like seeing Stanton's writing. I teased him a little bit when I saw him at the symposium, but that's another story. So, all right. So let's see. So that's the journal collection. And the private collectors private researches. So we got private research collections that is launching in stages, and they will include Bob Pratt, who is there on the left, Colonel Edward Ruppelt, who has worked with Project Blue Book, and Leonard Stringfield. They're all got their stuff coming in. Minnesota MUFON's own Craig Lang's collection is going to be added to that library. So we'll be adding Craig's research there. We just have to get it out of my closet and out to Ohio. So once we get it out to Ohio and out of my closet, it'll start being scanned, and all information's got to be redacted for like personal information and stuff. But Craig's stuff is all going to end up out there too, so that's a very cool thing. So it'll be nice to have a Minnesota representation in the private collectors library. So who's Craig Lang? Craig Lang was a member of ours for I think he joined us, Bill's in the mid 90s. Does that sound right, roughly? Yeah, he joined in the mid-90s, had an interest in the phenomenon. He quickly became a field investigator, and he just started chewing through cases. We couldn't give Craig enough cases because he just wanted to investigate. And he'd done so much investigation, he found himself kind of going, it'd be nice with some of these witnesses if I go a little bit deeper, go a little bit deeper. Could we get a hypnotist to regress some of these people? And there wasn't any. So Craig said, you know what? I'm going to become a hypnotherapist, and I'm going to regress it myself. So he went in, he became certified through the Guild of, National Guild of Hypnotists, I think. Yep, became a hypnotherapist. He did his own research, so he would do his cases, and then and that's the thing too, because he actually at one point he left his job and became a hypnotherapist professionally. And what he was doing at that point was, as a professional, he would work with people on cigarette cessation, weight loss, all those common things. But if you came to him with a UFO thing, there was no charge for that. He never charged for that because he was doing his own research. So he's gathering all this information. So he's getting paid for some of his other hypnotherapy work, but he was also on the side, he was gathering more UFO data because he was just passionate about the subject. And he was a very fun guy. He was a lot of fun. He passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. People loved him. He was yeah, you couldn't stop Craig from talking. I mean, look at me up here. You think you can't stop me from talking? Get me away from a microphone, and I can definitely stop talking for sure. But Craig was just on and on and on. He loved saying, Joe was talking about it earlier, because a lot of times after our meetings, like today, we're going to go to Sarna's. If you want to join us for Sarna's after the meeting today, just let us know. We'd be happy to do that, because Craig would always say, he'd say, yeah, we're going to meet up after the bar after the meeting today, because that's where the real ufology happens. So, so he always had a great sense of humor, had a lot of fun with that. And he always had a story, always had something to share and something to tell. So yeah, he was a state director before I was. He was one of our field investigators. He was never a chief investigator though, was he, Bill? Do you think?
No.
I don't think he was a chief investigator. He was state director and assistant state director. He was just very passionate about MUFON, and very, we have our board meetings last like an hour or two. When Craig was state director, we would go to board meeting at the restaurant like at 7, and hopefully we get out of there before bar closed, because he have your dinner, and he just loved talking about stuff. So yeah, great passionate guy, and we lost him a few years ago. So he was a big loss to us, but the nice thing is his family contacted us after he'd passed, because he had all this information and books and all this stuff, and like, do we just throw this stuff away, or do you guys want it? So we took all his stuff. We took books and books and books, and then all of his research stuff. So I've got all the research stuff in a closet at my house, and I got to get that shipped out to Ohio at some point or somehow. And then he'll be added to the library too. So that's a little bit of prestige for Minnesota. So we're really glad that we can add that to him. So let's see. So we're going to the symposium proceedings. Every year we have a MUFON symposium. When you go to conferences or symposiums, they have the little pamphlet or the little booklet about the symposium, who the speakers are, what they're talking about, all that. So we've got a room full of the symposium proceedings. So if you want to look at it, we currently got from 1971 through 2002. So if you want to see what was happening at our symposiums way back then, who was speaking, what they talked about, any of that stuff, it's all in there. And we're going to keep adding them too, so we get current. But right now we've only got only have 30 plus years worth of them in there so far. So That is that room. And of course, our UFO report map. So this is a multi-level interactive UFO map, including MUFON sightings, as well as reports from other UFO UAP organizations around the world. And this is actually a view from UFO stalkers. This is a UFO stalker view. So this is one of the reporting maps. So you can go into the UFO report map room and take a look at all sorts of maps for all sorts of UFO sightings. I don't know if it's global or not, if it's just the United States, but you know, I know it's at least this much. So yeah, so and that's for $50 per year, you get access to all of that stuff. And that's, you go to a MUFON.com and go to the store, and you can select the Project Aquarius library card. It says the price is 100 and it's on sale for 50. I'm not sure if that's a sales tactic or not, because I thought it was always going to be 50. So that might be a sale thing. Oh, it's on sale, I better grab it now. And I'm not sure. Maybe it'll go back to 100, but I'm not aware of that. I thought it was going to be 50 all the time. So I'm all about transparency, so I'm just telling you what I know. So definitely 50 now for a full year. You get access to all that stuff. So just so much information. If that's what you're into, we've got it for you. Okay, so are you a Minnesota MUFON member? Are you interested in participating in Minnesota MUFON in a bigger way? Are you interested in working closer with our MUFON leadership? Do you have some technology experience, or would you like some? And are you a people person? Minnesota MUFON is looking for a few volunteers to support us with various tasks. You can help make Minnesota MUFON an even better chapter. So interested parties can speak to me, or you can email me at mufontom@epcoachtom.com for more details. We'd love to have you join us. So, and some of the stuff like running the computers here, helping set up the sound, you know, and I'll get into some other roles on our board a little bit later. So. And speaking of MUFON symposiums, lo and behold, look at that. The symposium this year, the battle for UFO transparency. I said I'm all about transparency. That's our theme, the battle for UFO transparency. It's taking place in Dallas-Fort Worth area, Irving, Texas, from July 11th through the 14th at the Airport Marriott. Save the date. Speakers to be announced soon. Registrations are currently open, I believe. And even though it says July 11th through the 14th, there are other activities that'll be happening probably a couple 3 days leading up to that, because I know as a state director, if I go down early, there'll be like a state director meeting. There's a field investigator training, so those happen on like the 9th and 10th. So there's stuff going on down, and they always keep them really, there's a lot of stuff to do down there. And it's great too, because you go down to the symposium, you can meet people from all over the world there. So I mean, most of them are from the United States, but we get people from all over the world down there. So it's very cool. Talk to people from other countries and see what's happening in their country, what their take is, and what their perspective is on it. So a lot of fun. You can meet some of the speakers. Like I said, I bumped into Stanton Friedman a couple times when I was down there. If you like Stanton, he was a great guy. Like I said, I had fun picking on him a little bit, but yeah, there's all kinds of cool people you can meet down there. So highly recommend that. And I believe they're still doing early bird registration. They're doing early bird registration. If this is in July, I thought, boy, it's for a couple months. I thought I saw early bird registration through June, but that seems like really close. So, but they should have early bird registration right now. It's a little bit cheaper. So, and of course, the Minnesota MUFON Symposium Fund. So MUFON requires chapter representation at the annual symposium, and the board elected to establish a fund to send a representative. So if you want to donate to the symposium fund, you can contact Jan at jan.swenson.pioneer@gmail.com, and MUFON appreciates your donations. Now, we did this the past couple of years, and there's been a change. There's all these symposium things and membership stuff that keeps changing. If I understand it now, because last year when we did it, we needed to cover airfare, hotel, and the symposium. Now what I'm hearing is if our chapter pays our chapter dues, we only need to cover airfare and hotel. The symposium is is waived with that. So I know it's there's all sorts of stuff. I got to get all the stuff straight. So where I had an estimate last year was like around 1,800 to do the whole shooting match. It'll be less than that this year, because once we get our chapter dues paid, the symposium fee will be waived, and then it'll just be airfare and hotel that we need to cover to get that person down there. That person is usually me. So just, again, transparency. So let's see. So we'd like to thank all the people who've donated in the past. And really, I mean, I said it earlier, but you people have been very, very, very generous with us. You've been very supportive, and we do appreciate that. You've helped a lot. Our income is really through donations, either at the door here or other people donating for different stuff. So yeah, we certainly appreciate your donations, because you help us a lot and help us keep this chapter running. So we certainly want to make sure that you are recognized. We appreciate having you. So thank you for that. Okay, MUFON membership. Look at that. Look at that. We got to 102. We're at 102 now. We have been I set the goal of breaking triple digits, I think back in 2022, and we just didn't do it. We hadn't done it. Last December, we got up to 98. I was going, oh, 98, we're almost there. And January, we went down to 97. So, and it's funny because Jared's not here, but he's my assistant state director. He didn't see the recording of our meeting in January, so he called me up after the meeting. He goes, "Did we do it?" I said, "What did we do?" I goes, "Did we do it?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Did we have the meeting?" "Yes, we had the meeting." No. Did we break the record? Did we break the record?" "Oh, the record." No, we didn't break the record. We actually lost one. He was like, "Oh, we lost one." Because Jared, we had the record of triple digits. Jared's like, "I want to set the goal for 200 people now." I was like, "Well, we can set the goal for 200. Let's get the 100 first." So, but now we're up to 102. So that's great. So thank you all for being members. And of course, I've said this before. So when we look at 102, that 102 represents, I don't know, like 50, 60, 70 people who've been members year after year after year after year after our foundation, a really solid foundation. And then the other 30, 40 are new people who've come on, who've stuck with us. So, I mean, I appreciate the foundation. I appreciate the people who are newer, who are jumping on board. So that's fantastic. And I'll just, again, transparency, we're at 102. Even though we hit the triple digits, if you look at 2023, I mean, we were down to 79 and got up to 90. We jumped all around like a good almost 20 members span. And that happened in the other years too. We jump up and down. So even though we're at 102, we could be back to double digits again next month. So I won't really feel comfortable till we're like at 110, 120 going, then now we're really in triple digits. But Jared wants to set the goal of 200, and I support the goal of 200. But I want to thank everyone who's been a member, because you helped us hit that 102. Let's give you guys a round of applause again. So we certainly appreciate that. All right. So what else we got going on? So if you need to contact me, you can email me at mufontom@epcoachtom.com. Make sure to check out the Minnesota MUFON website at www.northlandmufon.com. So Northland MUFON is going to cover northern Minnesota and some in North Dakota, but it is within the Minnesota region too. So it's like a section of ours. So, and then of course, don't forget to check out the global website at www.mufon.com. So those are the places we need to check out. And we have Northland coming up next? Yeah, so here's what Northland looks like. This is a view of what the Northland website looks like. And I got a message from Northland MUFON. They said, "Our Northland MUFON website is looking for more content. If you'd like to contribute an article, a story, post pictures of an ET up close and personal, perhaps you have suggestions of what should be on the website, please let us know. The site will only be as good as we make it. Together, we can make it one of the premier websites for ufology out there. Contact Northland MUFON info@gmail.com or mnmufonjair@yahoo.com. So check out the website and let us know what you think of that. And then, of course, now the joke of the month. What you've all been, is everybody waiting for the joke of the month now? I teased it earlier. Is everyone waiting for, okay, joke of the month. We're doing another Star Wars joke this month. It's a Star Wars joke this month. You might get it. I think it's a funny one, but it might be a little on the easier side. And you can sponsor this, but this month's joke of the month is sponsored by MarsCon 2024. Shh, that's classified. March 8th through the 10th, 2024 at the Hilton Minneapolis St. Paul Airport Mall of America, 3800 American Boulevard, East in Bloomington, 55425. MarsCon is a fan-run science fiction convention for all ages, held every March in the Twin Cities area. At MarsCon, you'll find panel discussions, gaming, parties, guest of honor presentations, music of many kinds, an art show, film anime room, a science room, dealer's room, charity auction, and masquerade. But wait, there's more. Their Con and a Con comedy music track attracts performers and listeners from across the country. It's a veritable smorgasbord of sci-fi, fun, and adventure. Various ticket packages available. Go to marscon.org/2024 for all the details. But keep it quiet. That's classified. And I'll be announcing too. I will be presenting at MarsCon 2024 on Sunday at noon. I'll be talking about UFOs in Minnesota, believe it or not, if you can imagine that. So, and just to do another extra plug for MarsCon, I presented at MarsCon last year. Thought it was very cool. I met one of the Jawas from the 1977 Star Wars. He was there, and then I met the woman who's currently playing R2-D2 in the, is it Boba Fett? Is it or the Mandalorian? Mandalorian. She was there. It was very cool. I'd never met R2-D2 before. She doesn't look anything like she does on the screen, though. I'll tell you, she looks very human, but she was very cool. So lots of people, lots of cool stuff going on. So yeah, I don't know if anyone cool like that can be out there this year.
I don't know. Anyhow, the person did the finger poke for the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Oh, did you hear that? The person who did the finger poke for the Pillsbury Doughboy may be there. I know that finger. Probably not. So.
Babylon 5.
Oh, she's in Babylon 5. So there's, and it's like 3 days or
It starts Friday.
Friday. Yeah, very cool. I had a good time. I thought it was a lot of fun. So I'll be presenting Sunday at noon, and you're presenting too, right?
Friday night about 9.
Joe's presenting Friday night at 9 on topic.
Topic.
Yep.
Topic is for
Remote viewing. So if you got an interest in remote viewing, check out marscon.com or .com and see Joe or .org and see Joe's presentation Friday night or see me on Sunday afternoon. So your joke of the month. Where did Luke get his bionic hand? Check the chat. If you're online, you can answer in the chat. Give you a few seconds. Where did Luke get his? So this is a Return of the Jedi joke. Return of the Jedi. Where did Luke get his bionic hand? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone in the room know? Anyone online? No? Really? What, from Han Solo? No, not from Han Solo. No, that's good. I like that. Got it from Han Solo. That's good. No, it's not. He got it from Han Solo, but that's a good answer. Was that a response or did you? You did that. Okay, cool. Any other responses online? No. Anyone in the room? Where did Luke get his bionic hand? Anyone? Gonna give you a few more seconds. Anyone online? Okay. Shout it out if you know it, because I'm going to tell you in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At the secondhand store. So I thought it was, excuse me, I thought it was cute. So maybe that's just my weird sense of humor. I thought it was cute. So, so if you like to sponsor the Minnesota MUFON Joke of the Month, it's $10. So like how I did the little commercial for MarsCon, I'll do the same thing for you if you want to do that. And we had someone who didn't like have an organization or anything to promote. So, but she wanted to sponsor, so she gave me $10. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? She said, talk about this. So I talked about whatever she wanted me to talk about for a few seconds. So if you want to sponsor the Joke of the Month, $10 to do that. Or if you want to submit a joke of the month, they're not always jokes that I pick. If someone sends me a good joke that I like, and it's usually best in a question answer format, I'll use that as a joke of the month and I'll give you credit for it if I use one of your jokes. So, okay. So, MUFON's mission, the mission of MUFON is the scientific study of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. So MUFON has 3 goals. Our first goal is to investigate UFO sightings and collect data in the MUFON database for use by researchers worldwide. So that kind of goes back to the Project Aquarius. We are sharing this information. Our second goal is we promote research on UFOs to discover the true nature of the phenomenon with an eye towards scientific breakthroughs and improving life on our planet. Our third goal is we educate the public on the UFO phenomenon and its potential impact on society. So we do that every month. The second Saturday of every month, we have our monthly MUFON meeting. Normally, it's here at the New Brighton Community Center. We usually open the doors at 1 and the formal meeting starts at 2, goes till 5. That's normally what happens. Next month, that's not going to happen. It's still going to be on the second Saturday of the month, but it's going to be on Zoom only. So if you want to join us next month, it'll be on Zoom. So if you're not on our mailing list, get on our mailing list. We'll send you the link so you can join us next month on Zoom. But so don't come here. I mean, come here if you want to, but we're not going to be here. So we won't be here next month, but we should be back in April. So yeah, but normally we're here in April. So I would say, sometimes our meetings go longer too, so you want to watch the start times and content. So you want to look for our e-blasts. Like again, join our email list if you'd like to. You can also find us on Facebook. Join our Facebook group and look for announcements there. And you can also see us on Meetup. I think in Meetup we're called the Twin Cities UFO Research. Is that right, Mike? You never remember? Okay, it's something like Twin Cities UFO Research. It's not going to be Minnesota MUFON, but that is us. You can look and find us out there on Meetup. So check it out in case. That'll give us the days, times, and if we're changing the schedule a little bit. We haven't had to change the schedule much lately because we haven't had like a whole extra lot of content. So, but we want you to find us when we're going to be around. So, but next month on Zoom. We'd love to see you on Zoom. So someone asked me this earlier today. Do you do all this yourself? Oh my gosh, no, I don't do this all myself. Not a chance do I do this all by myself. I have a lot of help. So one of our helpers is so I'm the state director. My assistant state director is named Jared Nelson. I don't see Jared here today, but Jared lives up north. He usually is up there, but I thought he'd be here today, but he's not. But let's give Jared a big round of applause. And Jared's also on MUFON's ERT team, and ERT stands for Experiencer Resource Team. And if you want to know about that, I can talk about that a little bit later. So we do have this person here in our room. His name is Bill McNeff. He's a chief investigator. He's a director of, he's not director of communications anymore. He's on the ERT team and our STAR team manager. Let's give Bill McNeff a big round of applause. That's Bill right there. And our new chief investigator, I'm really excited. We've got a new chief, not that Bill was anything wrong with Bill, but we just a new chief investigator. Got a new chief investigator is Linda Folkerts Malek is our new chief investigator. Let's give Linda a round of applause. And our treasurer, and she's our treasurer and she's the keeper of the goodies back there. Give a big round of applause to Jan Swenson. And this guy, you probably met him at the check-in desk. He's running our check-in table today. Mr. Ivor Matz, he's our membership director. Say hello to Ivor. And I was talking about volunteers. We do have a couple of open positions on the board. So we've got secretary positions open on the board. So if you're interested in being our secretary, love to talk to you about that. And we've got a programming coordinator position is open too. So helping us schedule our speakers and stuff like that. We could use one kind of point person for that. So if either of those roles are of interest to you, talk to me. We can see what we can do about getting you on the board. You do have to become a member. So if you're not a member, you have to become a member first, and then we can put you on the board of directors. So that'd be great. So today's meeting is going to be a little bit different than what was advertised. We advertised that we're going to do my introductions, then we're going to do What's Up in Minnesota, then we're going to have our speaker, Russ Kellett. We won't be doing What's Up in Minnesota this month. So for those of you who haven't been here before, so What's Up in Minnesota is a segment I try to do every month. What I do is I talk about, well, first of all, I talk about statistics of what kind of sightings have come in around the world. You know, how many sightings were reported in each country, what shapes were reported, you know, distance, how close people were to things, how many entities were seen, how many were in each state. So, and then after that, I go into Minnesota cases. I talk about cases that I've shown you before, that when I told you about them before, they weren't completed, that they've now completed. So now I update you on those. And then I update you on cases that have come in since the last meeting. So I'm telling you exactly what's happening in Minnesota. That's why it's called What's Up in Minnesota. And unfortunately, we got an email on Tuesday from MUFON headquarters. So I'm going to read you the email as it is. So it says, greeting all all MUFON directors, assistant directors, national and assistant directors, and chief investigators. MUFON's case management system has incurred a significant security breach called a denial of service attack. There is no doubt that this significant attack shows the importance of MUFON in the ufology field. Our data is precious and is backed up. We are working to correct the problem. Our IT officer will give me updates as necessary. Anticipate 1 to 3 days shutdown until we restore service. I will keep you all posted. Please advise your field investigators as to our internal CMS mailing list is also down. Thank you, Bob Spearing, DOII. DOII is Director of International Investigations. So that means the database that we have where all of our cases come into has been attacked, and I can't access the information. So all that stuff I normally tell you What's Up in Minnesota, I get straight from our database. I deliver to you. It went down. I got this on Tuesday. They thought it'd be 1 to 3 days. Here we are Saturday. I checked it again this morning. Still nothing. So I'm hoping that we'll get it back soon. And when he talks about the stuff being backed up, it really is backed up, because I know they're working on database migration and stuff about a year ago or so, and they had like 6 or 7 layers of backups, and they thought they still lost something. Then they realized they had a few more layers of backups beyond that. So the stuff I think is backed up daily and repetitively. So we probably haven't lost much of anything, if anything, depending on what kind of attack it was. But the only thing that really wouldn't be there is anyone who's tried to report cases in the past few days hasn't been able to do that. So hopefully they'll still come and find us and check us out. So assuming we can get back into the database, next month I'll do 2 months worth of What's Up in Minnesota. I've done that before. I've tackled 2 months worth in a single month before. We're not gonna miss anything. Again, that's that transparency thing. I want you to see what's really. Yep, I'll get to you in just a second. I want you to see what's really coming in Minnesota, what's happening, what people are talking about. And yes, question. Sure. Great question. I was going to talk about that. So it can vary a lot. So the typical month in Minnesota is roughly 6 to 8 cases. That's a typical month. And I talk about this occasionally. So when we see 6 to 8 cases per month in Minnesota, I was reading an article by a former police officer, and it was a really interesting article because he dealt in, I think, sex crimes and whatnot. And sex crimes are kind of a unique thing because for the amount of crimes that actually happen, there are very few reported, so that the activity is much, much higher than what's reality or what's really going on out there. So, and I think the same thing goes for ufology. When we get 6 to 8 per month, that's 6 to 8 per month that report to us. So we don't really know how much is happening in Minnesota out there, because if they don't report to us, we don't know. So he was saying he felt about 20% of sex crimes are reported. So the balance of 80% goes unreported. So if we kind of translate that to Minnesota, where if our 6 to 8 is 20%, you just, multiply that by 5, it's reasonable to expect that could be what's out there, but it's hard to say. Does that help at all? In Minnesota? I'd have to go back and check sometimes, but that's the thing too. And this is I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but we get sightings from where people are. So, I mean, that's so like cities and stuff, if people are there, we tend to see them, but where it's not as many people, we just don't get them as much. But yeah, so it does vary. And the thing is too, a couple of years ago when Elon Musk and SpaceX started launching all those Starlink satellites, we were getting about 18 to 20 reports a month. So, and a lot of them were Starlink. And the first time we got a Starlink report, our investigators we didn't know what it was at first either. So we actually closed it as an unidentified aerial phenomenon. But then once we figured out what these were, we were able to track them and identify them. We had to go back to those cases, revisit them, and change them over to man-made objects. So as some of the disclosures or the dispositions that we have for cases, because when we close a case, it's not just closed. We give it different dispositions to tell us, what we determined the case was. Was it a keyboard hoax or a event hoax or a unidentified aerial phenomenon or identified or a man-made object? That happens too. So yeah, so we jumped up, and actually the cases jumped up around the world when Starlink started. So, but now we've educated the public, and when people know more about it now. So we occasionally get a Starlink satellite, but not as much as we used to. We were getting a lot of them though. But generally 6 to 8 is pretty common. So does that help? Cool.
So curious, most of them are around.
Yeah, it is all over. Craig Lang, we talked about Craig Lang earlier. He was working on a theory too, because there's a strip of 35W north of the cities from, like, I forget what the range is, but he nicknamed it the UFO highway because there was a big concentration of stuff happening along that strip of 35W going, well, north-south, or 35 north. So it could be, yeah. So, but he's not doing that anymore. But it's like flaps. They'll suddenly be a lot in a certain area, and then they'll kind of go down. But they're really spread all over the place. So, and that also too, not only do there have to be people there, the other component is they have to know about us. Because, we've been around since 1969, and I'll still have people go, wow, I never heard of you guys. I never knew anything about, and we try to promote and let people know where and we're global. We're around the world. We've got chapters all over the world, and there's still people that haven't heard of us for one reason or another. So, so that's the thing too. We will occasionally get a case, it's 10 years old, and the person's like, I would have reported this sooner if I even knew you guys existed. But, and even when I say 6 to 8 per month too, it's important to keep in mind too some of the context around that, because we saw this a number of times last year. I was doing reports last year, and last year we got a case from the 1930s. We got a case from the 40s and the 50s. We get cases from the early 2000s. And it's funny because you go, well, why would someone wait so long to report it? Well, they may not know about us. And another thing is, one of the reports from up in the Duluth area, it was a husband and wife, and I think their sighting was in the early 2000s, I think, and it was like right over their house. It was very big, and they were very credible witnesses, and they said they didn't report it 20 years ago because let's see, he had a high-ranking position as a professor at a university, and she has a high-ranking position in the state patrol. So because of both of their careers, they didn't want to jeopardize their career by reporting the sighting. So now they had both retired. They're like, okay, we've retired now let's go ahead and report it. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't report them right away. So, but getting a case that's 30, 40, 50 years old, it's cool, but it doesn't faze me because it's not really that unexpected. So, but current cases, so you could translate that to current cases like 5 or 6 usually per month. So, and then again, how many people citing? It's really hard to gauge what that number is accurately. So it's back to today's meeting. So we're not doing What's Up in Minnesota today. We are still going to have Russ Kellett speaking. Has Russ checked in yet? He's not checked in yet. Okay. Can't see him yet. Okay. So Russ is a speaker. He's currently in London, England. So he'll be joining us from London, and he's going to be presenting on the ET Rider. The ET Rider. That is his topic today. So, and next month for March, hopefully we'll do What's Up in Minnesota, because hopefully we'll be back into our database. So we'll get What's Up in Minnesota, 2 months worth. So you'll catch all the fun. I don't want to hold anything back from you. I want you guys to know as much as I can tell you about what's actually happening here in Minnesota. And then we've got a live speaker. No, so we're on Zoom. We're on Zoom, not here. We're on Zoom. So it'll be on Zoom. We will have a speaker. Our speaker is Dana Louise. She'll be talking about coming out of the cosmic closet, my personal experiences with extraterrestrials. This is a person who's been face to face and had personal encounters. And do I identify you? So she's in this room. She's right back there. So that's Dana Louise right there. So she'll be our speaker next month. So she'll be telling us about her lifetime experiences with ETs and what has happened to her. So I talked to her a bit last night. Very interesting stuff. I think you'll like it. I think you'll enjoy it. So yeah, check back in next month on Zoom. You'll get to hear Dana's story. Then in April, hopefully we'll be doing What's Up in Minnesota again, because we should be back in the database. And then we'll be having another speaker. She will be here. She will not be here. She'll be remote, I believe. Yeah, she'll be remote. Or is she? I can't see. That's why I need a programming coordinator, because I can't keep all this stuff straight. But her name is Roxanne Lenars. She'll be speaking on the feline planet. the feline planet. So she's a hypnotist. She does hypnotherapy and hypnoregressions, and she's uncovered this whole thing about the feline planet. Should be presenting on that. So that's coming up in April. So, and then I know Ivor's told me too, he's got a lead on a speaker for someone else after that. So I didn't even know about that one, but Ivor's working on getting us another speaker too. So that'd be fantastic. So I mentioned that we have a Facebook page. So go ahead and check out our Facebook page, join our Facebook page, follow our Facebook page. I don't know if you join or follow the pages. It's one of those things. So it's what? Follow. So follow our Facebook page. It's a good place to get the updates and stuff. And people do post a lot of cool things on our Facebook page. So go ahead and check that out. We have a YouTube channel. We do have a YouTube channel. I want you to go to our channel, subscribe to our channel. We've currently got over 1,660 subscribers, which is pretty darn cool. We've got over 49 videos out there. We've got videos from a lot of the videos were speakers that took place right here in Minnesota. So we've had Paula Harris here a couple times. Some of her talks are out there. Ken Storch, you may have seen Ken Storch on like UFO Hunters and some of the other UFO groups. He's a police officer who's done UFO chasing. He was here in person. He did a really, really cool presentation. That's out on YouTube. Sherry Wild I believe she's from Wisconsin. Ted Phillips was here. Grant Cameron was here. He kept calling me something really. He kept calling me the IT guy or something. I'm like, I'm not the IT guy or something. But yeah, Grant Cameron was pretty cool. Minnesota MUFON members, Joe Swenson is on it there too. Craig Lang has done a presentation. You can go see Craig Lang's presentation out on YouTube. And we had an experiencer panel here a few years back. Our experiencer panel is online. Our What's Up in Minnesotas, if you want to see some of our older What's Up in Minnesotas, those are out on YouTube. Jared, my assistant state director, we were stuck at like 28 videos for the longest time because our current guy who was doing the videos just couldn't get anything done. And then he passed away, unfortunately. But Jared's coming, he's like cranking the videos, he's getting the videos up there. So that's great. So Jared's got us up to 49 videos. So you want to see What's Up in Minnesota, get a feel for what it's like. They're out on your YouTube channel. You can check them out. You can see me talking about recent cases that have come in. So we'll take a break. We'll be back in about 15 to 20. Hope you're enjoying it. We'll see you back in a bit. And don't you run away on Zoom. We'll be back shortly. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right, yes. So what would you like to know, Chris?
Just tell the audience from the start, I guess, how you got into everything.
Right, well, it started at a young age, basically, when I've been upstairs in the back bedroom where I wasn't supposed to be, and they were looking for Christmas presents because we all knew, well, me and my sister knew that that's where Santa Claus left, presents upstairs in the back bedroom. So I've been upstairs looking around, and I shouldn't have been. And my grandma and my mum were downstairs, and I could hear them talking and then shouting up, Russell, are you upstairs? What are you doing? And I says, yeah, I'm coming down. And I thought I'd better hurry up and get out of this bedroom, sort of like, because I'm not supposed to be there. So as I'm now walking to go out of the bedroom, I looked out of the window and I could see this like figure of a human in some kind of pilot suit, like grey silver pilot suit with an helmet on. And he came through the gate, and there's this object, silvery white, behind him. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, is that a spaceman? At first I thought it was a dustbin man, like picking up the dustbins, So I looked down at him and I thought to myself, that's not the dustbin man. He's got an helmet on. He must be a spaceman. So I sort of like put my hand up to wave at him. And this thing looked up at me. And it half sort of like put its hand up and were looking up at me, sort of thing. So by this time, my mum and my grandma downstairs were shouting, come on, get down these stairs now. Sort of like, what you doing up there? And I think they knew that I were looking for Christmas presents. They're not daft other mums and grandmas, So I shouted, come in. So I looked, and he's now walking backwards and behind this object. And I'm looking, and the object started going from side to side like so, and then up. So I looked up, and I mean, these are big windows, and I'm only little at 4-year-old, and I'm looking up and thinking, wow, was that a flying saucer sort of thing, So then I heard my mum shout, "Come on, get down these stairs now." So yeah, I'm coming. So I went into the bathroom and then I went downstairs. And my grandma says, "You little monkey, what have you been up to?" You know, sort of like up those stairs, she says. And I says, "Oh, just in the bathroom." She said, "You're a long time in the bathroom. Now sit down and I'll make you a drink of tea." So I think they must have known what I was doing, you know, like looking for Christmas presents, you know, sort of like. So that was the first sort of like strange encounter with something which looked like some kind of like spaceman with like a silvery grey suit and his helmet on. Then I was in my teens and I was with a group of friends and we all lived down this back street, you know. And it was summer holidays. We're all on holiday from school, you know. And we're playing a game of hide and seek. And as usual, I was the first to get caught. So I went and sat down at the top of the street and they had this tarmac down. And there's like a nail sticking out. Don't ask me how, but there's a nail sticking out of the tarmac. And sort of like, anyway, I was sat there looking and playing with this nail, trying to pull this nail out of tarmac. And I looked up and this object moved from the left to the right-hand side. And it was moving slow and it was massive. It was a big object. And it was like an orange, but it was like white and red, white, red, all the way around. You know, like the segments. And so I'm looking at this object. So I just jumped up and shouted, "Look, there's a UFO." And all the others, you know, sort of like I could hear them shouting one by one, "Shut up, you know, just because you've been caught, don't mean to say we want to be caught, you know." And I said, "No, I'm not joking." I said, "There's a UFO." And like one by one, like heads started popping up over edges and over gates, you know, and from behind walls and the garage, you know, like my mates were all hiding and looking. And they came running up to where I was and they just could not believe what they were looking at. I couldn't believe what we were looking at. And one or two of the older ones were like saying, "No, it's not a UFO." And I said, "Yeah, it is." And they said, "Oh, it's not. It's a balloon. It's an hot air balloon." I said, "Really?" I said, "Look how big it is and how close it is to us. Where's the basket then? And where's the people in the basket?" And they didn't like this, of course, because I was younger and I'm answering them back. And I'm showing them that, you know, what they're saying is wrong. Because, yeah, it's very close, it's very big, and something so big and so close to us, if it was a hot air balloon or any other balloon, you will be able to see. But definitely not a hot air balloon because there was no tether around, you know, and no braces to hold the basket in place, etc., you know. And they all ran across the road and started, you know, following this object. Anyway, by the time I got across the road, they were walking back and I said, "Where's it gone?" And they said it went into a cloud, you know. So we went back and we're all talking about this because, I mean, it was a big thing. I mean, there must have been at least 15 witnesses, you know. I mean, this was a big thing, you know. Anyway, one of my friends, he turned around and said, "You know," he says, "this is important, this." He said, "We should call this something or where you saw it something." So I said, "Well, I was sat there," and I says, "and there's a nail sticking out of the ground there." I said, "Why don't we call this nail point?" So anyway, we said, "Yeah, we'll call it nail point." Now, 15 years later, I was in a shop. I became ill, and I started working for myself. So I got this shop, and I haven't been open long when in comes my friend from back in the day when he was with us when we saw this object, you know. And the first thing he said, "All right, Russ," you know. I said, "All right, how are you doing?" He said, "All right," and he said he'd just come out of the army, and you know, and is it my shop? And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Here, Russ," he says, "do you remember Nail Point?" And I said to him, "How could I forget it?" You know. So I mean, for him, 15 years later, and I hadn't seen him for 15 years, right? Yeah. For him to ask me if I remembered, you know, that day Nail Point, you know, that must have left some impression in his mind. You know, 15 years later, you know, sort of like, and we were young kids, and it was still there. And, you know, the first thing he more or less said, apart from, "All right, Russ, how is this your shop? How are you doing?" was, "Remember Nail Point and that UFO?" You know? And I met other people as well that was that time. And you know, one or two have said, "Oh yeah, we've seen you in papers and on television talking about UFOs." And I says, "Yeah, well, we saw a UFO as well, didn't we?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's the point." I says, "How many of us saw that day that UFO?" I says, "So," I said, "it's not in my imagination, is it?" You know? And they said, "No, no, definitely not in your imagination." You know, and I says, "And I ain't bigging myself up. I'm not saying, look what I saw. I'm saying, look what we all saw that day." You know, so it must have had some impact on people to remember 15 years later, and they're still talking about it. And that was that must have been sort of like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So now that's like 35 years ago now, you know? So obviously, this is why I had an interest. You know, my dad also was at work on his tea break with his workmates and a couple of his brothers at work there. And they'd all seen a cigar-shaped object. And when I started researching this subject, I went back into old archives from the library, and I found one or two pieces in the paper about UFO reports where my dad had seen this object, and it was known as the Fackley torpedo. So when my dad came in from work and he was talking about this and telling me mum, and I was sat there listening to him, you know, as soon as you mention UFO, you know, and flying saucers, when you're a youngster, even when you're older, you know, wow, UFOs, you know, like, and it's a subject what a lot of people now are really, really, you know, looking at seriously. So in a way, you know, sort of like that was one of the first reports that I'd come across, and it was from my dad. Although he didn't actually see the UFO, his brothers and his workmates that were behind him were looking. By the time he turned around, the thing had gone into a cloud, you know. So I mean, that's like, you know, the earliest I remember about, you know, my dad. And my dad wasn't a fool, you know. My dad was in atom bomb tests, in secret atom bomb tests, you know. And there were a big question. Somebody said to me, could it have been because your dad were in an atom bomb test? that these things, you know, sort of like are looking at you because your DNA somewhere, if my dad's near an atom bomb going off and then he has a child, you know, sort of like, i.e. me, you know, could it have altered something to do with my biological system, you know, that's basically shouting out to them, oh, look, there's somebody here that's sort of like been around nuclear power, and they're having a look to see, you know, am I some kind of a threat to them, or, you know, sort of like, if you see what I mean. It might not be, but, you know. So anyway, that was the earliest UFO report that, you know, I'd heard, and it was from me dad. So then, getting into my teens then, and I'd left school on the Friday, and I started work on the Monday. I worked for an American company, used to make clothes for the GIs, and you know, do all the laundry in England for all the American troops, you know, originally. And I was 16 years old, and I had a motorbike bought for me, part for me my birthday and part for Christmas. So I used to go to work on my motorbike, a trail bike, a Suzuki, and I'd come home and I'd have my tea, and then I'd go out, and there were areas where we could go and we could do trail bike riding, you know. And most of the time, I'd just go out riding around and calling to see friends, and, you know, but most of them wasn't as fortunate as me. You know, they didn't have motorbikes on the road, you know. I was really lucky. So on this particular evening, I was riding home, and I was going around this corner, and basically in front of me was this, I can only describe it as a massive big tunnel. And I'm slowing down, I'm thinking, I can't remember this tunnel, you know, like a couple of nights ago. And it was massive, and I thought, this doesn't work right, you know, sort of like, because for a tunnel to be here now, it'd have taken weeks, because it looked huge, you know, it was the full size of the road, you know. Anyway, I went into this tunnel, and the next thing I was in this room, and I was sat in this chair, and I'm looking, and there's these shadows moving around, and I'm sort of like looking all around at these shadows and looking up, and I'm looking up at this movement, and there must have been about 6 of these creatures. They were huge. They must have been 15 foot tall, and they were like Nosferatu, you know, like bald, you know, tall creatures, you know, like the Dracula, you know, the French Dracula, is it? And the next thing, I had my head moved forward and an injection in my back and my neck, and I moved other way, and then this tube put into my mouth, down my throat, and attached was like these wires and this helmet. And we seemed to be elevated then. And I say we because there were other people in the same scenario at the side of me, both sides, and I'm looking and flipping it. There's a lot of people in the same sort of like position. And in front is this massive screen. And all of a sudden, we started getting information in this helmet, what they'd put on. And it was giving us all information. It were like battle skills, basic battle skills and weaponry, and about weapons and about enemies, and the other enemies that are working alongside these aliens that were our enemies. And you know, I'm just thinking to myself, where am I? You know, I was quite frightened, if I'm honest about it, you know. And I've been struggling because when you have something put down your throat, into your mouth and put down your throat, you can imagine, not a very good thing, to have happen whatsoever, Anyway, so the next thing I knew, I was back on my motorbike and it's almost stalling and juddering because it's like it's still in gear. So now I pull my clutch in, knock down the gears, and I'm just starting, and I thought I better look behind me. So I'm looking behind me to see if there's any cars behind me. Because I'm thinking, if I'm not careful, I'm going to get knocked off my motorbike here. And I thought, don't look round. Well, I had to look round, obviously, just in case there's any vehicles behind me. But I'm not wanting to look round, and I'm not wanting to see where I've just come from, if you know what I mean. Because I was still sort of like, I could say I was terrified, to be quite honest. So I looked around and there were no cars. So I put my throttle back, just missed this wall and carried on my journey home. So anyway, I'm on my way home now and I pulls into me my garden. Well, it was like a little drive, sort of like not a garden, but a backyard, And I parked my bike up and I noticed there were no lights on in the house. And I thought that's unusual because when I get in, even if it's been late at 12 o'clock, and I was told, if it's work days, get in for 11. You've got work the next day. So anyway, I parked my bike up and I'm looking, no lights on. Anyway, I'm just knocking on the door when an irate mum opens the door with a curlers in, sort of like looking at me. And, what time do you call this? Oh dear. And I said, I don't know. Why? You don't know? She says, are you wrong in your head? How do you mean you don't know? I said, well, I don't know. I haven't got a watch on. She said, well, I suggest, she says, you go get a cheap watch from the shop, she says, and get in at a right hour, a reasonable hour. Anyway, my grandma's downstairs now, and I'm thinking, oh dear, this is double trouble, First your mum, and now your grandma, you know what I mean? So she asked where I'd been, and, what time do you call this? So I told her, well, I don't know, like I've said, I haven't got my watch on. So apparently it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, almost 4 o'clock in the morning. And sort of like, what are you doing now? You don't drink, you're not old enough to drink, and so where have you been? And I says, I think one time I made an excuse, well, I run out of petrol. And then the other time, I think I had a flat tire. I had to get some air put in my tire. So, of course, my mum is not really happy. So she said, well, I think the best thing for you to do is, she says, you're up, she said, in 4 hours and at work, she says. I think you need to get in and now and get to bed. She said, because she says, you've got work in the morning. So I'm sort of like just getting a good clip around the back of the lug hole, as we say in England, and sent on my way to bed, And then my grandma said to me, Mum, oh, leave him. He's only young. So anyway, that was the first very strange encounter that I had with these tall creatures, in this room, like Nosferatu, sort of like bald type aliens, And then basically what happened was it was the same kind of scenario. I were out on my motorbike, and you know, sort of like after tea, I'd go out and have a ride around, and I'd come across this tunnel, and it was almost, I wouldn't say every time I went out on my motorbike, but it was more often than not. And I'd come across this tunnel in the middle of the road again, and I would end up again being sat in this chair and have this injection at the back of my neck. And then I had this tube put into my mouth, down my throat, and this helmet put on. So then we go through this scenario like being raised, and we're looking at this we're like in this massive arena. And in this arena is this like big screen. And it's putting all this information, you know, of like battle skills and weaponry, and in front of his eyes, you know, on this screen sort of thing. And so it's going through, you know, sort of like how to use these weapons, about the enemies, what the enemies look like. Just bear with us a minute. It's in that book, by the way. And that's the tunnel that I went through. It's not exactly like that. Somebody else drew that, but not exactly the same. So what it is we've got all these different aliens and their allies. So it's showing the you know, the screen is showing that the enemies and their allies, you know. So and most of the time there were different type of like these creatures like dragons. They were like half human, half dragon. Not all the time, because sometimes we came across these tall creatures with like, they looked more Slavic looking. Sometimes we had some aliens what were like with blonde hair, you know. And then we'd have the alien greys, you know, and then there were quite a different, you know, array of, you know, different sort of like races, you know. But the thing is, they were all working alongside Americans. They were working alongside with the British, Europe, Russia, you know. And it's almost like each country, some countries had been working with more than one alien race. You know, you might get a different political party that, you know, comes in, and they might have decided to be allies with another type of alien, which, you know, like maybe 4 years before they wouldn't have been working with. And this was the same all around the world. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, so there's a lot of different aliens, you know, and their allies. So, and their allies are fighting also alongside them. So, you know, and there's a war going on. And there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, I always say that when you're taken and you're abducted, you know, there's a clue. It's not for any good, as the, you know, as the word abduction, taken without consent, you know. So I mean, it's like, I know I hear people that's never been abducted, that have never seen aliens, that have never seen a UFO, telling me about my story, about what it's all about. How does that work? Yeah. How can you tell me if you've never been abducted? How can, if you've never been in a craft? You know what I mean? Sort of like, to me, I'm just listening to, you know, you've heard of tomfoolery, you know what I mean? And sort of like, and there's a lot of people out there, you know, and I see them talking at conferences, and you've only got to look at them and you know that it's BS. That, you know, one of the things what happens when you're abducted, right, yeah, you become ill. Physically and mentally, you become ill. And one of the reasons is for this, you've been taken out of your comfort zone, put into a war zone, because we're talking about aliens taking us for reasons. And at least you're lucky if you've been taken as a soldier, because some of the people that are taken never come back. They're used in, you could say, like a sex slave. They've been used for food. This isn't a game. We're talking about a war. The same thing that's going on in every country around the world, yeah, is going on with them in other planets and on this planet. Because a lot of what's happening on this planet is down to them. So what happens is, because you've been taken, a lot of this becomes, you're physically taken, but it has an effect on the system. So what happens is you start being ill. Now, I've come across in my research now of people that have been abducted that have ended up having something called, either, it was known in the early days as ME. Have you heard of it? Have you? It's myalgia and encephalitis. Then they changed the name from ME to fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. There's quite a few other names. Burnout. Some people put it and class it very similar alongside post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yep.
So, but it's partly that, and it's partly because we have been taken and we've gone through time. Now, when we have a system, when we go, when we're taken, when we're going on a mission, we go through this gateway by this system, which is like two crystal balls that come up out of the ground on these, like, on top of the, like, tube objects. And when it energizes from these two objects underneath, they're like poles. When it energizes the balls, these crystal balls, and these tubes go back down, we cup his hands and put them over the top, and basically we're gone. It might only take us a split second. Sometimes it might take us maybe 1 or 2 or 3, 4, 5 seconds to go from A to B. That might be from some part of my planet to another part of the planet. It might be to back up to one of the craft that we're actually orbiting in, or it might be going to the planet there, or the aliens' home planet, or we might be going to another planet where there's a battle. So all this is us basically. It's a form of teleportation. You can call it teleportation. You can call it time travel, because it's the same thing. It's the same kind of thing. Now, but one of the things what we had, and I hear people talking about shadow people. Now, on our uniform, there's 2 dials. Now, the bottom dial, there's a button that you press in. You turn the dial and you press a button in. Now, what that is, it's a bit like a clock. And what it happens is you can walk through solid matter once that button's in. You can press it in and you can let go and it pops out. You've got to be very careful, because if you let that button out when you're halfway through a solid object, you're dead. That's it. Right, yeah, so you've got to be very, very careful. So what happens is you've got this button pressed in and you're walking through solid objects. And after you've come out of those solid objects, if that button's still pressed in on the timer, or even if you've still got it pressed in and you're looking around just to make sure there's no enemy around, what happens is you become a little bit like a silhouette. You see the outline of your figure. So some people, you can say that they're called the shadow people. So I know for certain some people call us shadow people. And what it is, they're seeing us, right, yeah, using this technology. So that is just one thing to think about. So I've used this system many times. You know, sort of like sometimes you use it when you've got to get out of trouble. You know, like if you're being attacked and you cannot get out of a situation. I remember my gun, my rifle was smashed, and I had no alternative to press the button in and to run for it. You know, otherwise I'd have just been left for dead. You know, so yeah, that is something which always makes me feel sick though. You know, when I use this, you know, like when we're time traveling or we're using, like I say, this system, you know, for teleporting, I always have this like sickly feeling when I'm using it, you know. So then what happened was, from just being sat down in these chairs, what happens next is when we're taken in this chair and what have you, have this injection, the next thing, we're standing in this big room with a checkered board floor. And we're stripped and what have you. We have this mist all around us, which is like a shower. And then it's like a blow dry, you know, a dryer on you, and you're dried. And then we get these uniforms given, which are really thin material, and you put them on, and it almost just joins when you put it on, and it's sort of like it fits. We turn this knob around, and as we're turning it, it goes from white to yellow to green to blue to black. And all the time it's getting tighter. And it's an amazing feeling. When you've got this, it's like when you've got this suit on, it's like you feel invincible. I can't explain it. Unless you've been taken, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's like an invincible feeling, power. That, you know, sort of like you just feel it through your body, you know. So then we're given a helmet and we're told never ever pick one of the weapons up without first having an helmet on. Make sure it's never got a battery in, because the batteries look like an actual magazine for a rifle. But what it is, when it slots in, that's the power pack. Because what they have, there's two lots. There's one that have lasers, but initially it's a sound weapon. But underneath, on the other rifles, they had to put that were a sound weapon, but they had to put a laser pack, a laser blaster later on, underneath. So you had two weapons. Now, usually those weapons, what we use with the sound, are for like the big creatures, which are like half human, half dragon. Some people call them Dragos. There's different types. There's white, there's green, there's browny red. There's a bluey type. But these creatures can only be killed by this sound weapon. But for good measures, I'd always give it a blast with with one of the other alternatives as well, because you would not want one of these grabbing hold of you. And I shouldn't really joke about it, but you know. So that's a weaponry, like it's a weapon, a sound weapon, and a blaster, laser blast weapon, a laser cannon. And the helmets, it's like not music, but when you put them on, there's this. It is like music, but if you fire one of the rifles and you haven't got an helmet on, it'll burst your eardrum. Now, I had an accident and one of the weapons went off and my helmet were half off over my right ear. So I have a lot of problems out of my right ear at the moment. I have had for years after it happened. Almost went deaf. You know, some days I have bad days with my hearing, you know, my right ear in particular, you know. So yeah, so we've been looking for some of the bases on this planet because they've got bases which there's still some that are secret locations that haven't been located yet. There's also some on other planets that we haven't found. But I don't think I'm going to be finding them now. I think I'm too old. I haven't been taken for a long time now. And I don't want to be either. You know, these days I prefer to be left alone. You know. But like I say, there's a lot of things involved here. It's not just aliens, it's different countries around the world. It's people making pacts with them. And, you know, a lot of this is a lot of, you could call it slavery, is still going on. That they're wanting, you know, these creatures, women, sex objects, slaves, they want slavery to do manual tasks and what have you in a lot of mines, you know, around the universe and what have you. Food as well. That's another thing. These things, you know, will eat humans, but they're not the only creatures that'll eat humans. You know, there's other types of alien, you know, these big things like jelly sort of creatures. They'll eat anything, you know, sort of like, but unfortunately, one of their favorite foods, you know, sort of like humans. So it's, you know, all in all, it is not a good thing, you know. You know, I've been researching now for like 30 years, you know, this subject. And one of the reasons really why I got into researching was because being an abductee, you know, you're wanting answers. But the problem is, you know, sort of like, you know, let's just say there's a lot of people that repeat other stories. They might see a book, you know, and it's a bestseller. And all of a sudden, what they do is they become repeaters. So they'll say, oh, you know, they'll repeat almost the whole book as if it's them. You know what I mean? And you can ask them any questions, but unless it's in the book, they can't tell you the answers. You know, they can't tell you the answers unless it's written down in the book, you know, somewhere. They cannot give you answers. Now, one of the things that happened to me, because I had 100% memory recall, I should say, which is that I lost my memory. Or I should say, I didn't lose it. Somebody took my memory. And what happened was I was talking to my dad. He'd come in from the shop. I said I'd make him a drink of tea. He'd gone into his room and taken his papers. And he left me a couple of papers, Sunday morning papers. And I was just reading. I put the kettle on and I was just reading. And all of a sudden, as I'm reading, I'm aware that I'm struggling to read. And I'm feeling really odd. And it's like I couldn't read, and I don't know what was going on. It was really a real strange. And my dad asked if I were all right. And I was talking to my dad in riddles. I was speaking to him and I wasn't making any sense. And he said to me, are you all right? And I just said to him, no. Because I couldn't communicate with him. everything what I was saying was coming out backwards. It were all like, you've heard of the word gobbledygook, the word gobbledygook. I just was not making any sense. So anyway, he shouted up to me, mum, it was Sunday morning, you know, only time my mum got to have a lie in. And he says, Rita, he said, I'm going to have to take our Russ to hospital. He said, I think there's something wrong with him. So anyway, I got taken to hospital and they looked at me in my eyes and everything and they said, look, we're going to have to keep him in. They did x-rays and body scans, brain scans on me. Anyway, they came back and they said, you know, we don't like the look of him. You know, they said, we don't know what it is, but there's something not quite right. Anyway, basically, I was put into one of these isolation wards because they didn't know what it was. You know, they said, does he take drugs? My dad said, I don't think he does, no. Has he taken anything? Has he swallowed anything? Has he been beaten up? Because it were like, you know, I didn't know where I was. You know, could I head injuries? He said, no. He said, we're talking to him. We were all right. And the next thing. So, anyway, I was in hospital 3 days and they could not understand what it was. But by that time, a lot of my memory and a lot of the things about my abduction, I couldn't remember. So something somehow had come along and had taken away a big part of my memory. Why? Why would that happen? But I could almost feel it, like it was like being pulled out. I could almost feel it being pulled out of me, you know, like that sort of thing. It was one of the most terrifying things I can honestly say that I've ever had happen to me. You know, it was bad enough meeting these aliens. That terrified me. You know, but my goodness. You know, I thought I was dying. Well, I think the hospital thought I was when I was, you know, when I was taken in. You know, sort of like wasn't good whatsoever. You know, and then when I came out of hospital, you know, I started again, you know, like being ill, not well at all, you know, and that's when I started looking for answers. But also when I started looking for answers, I got a video camera and I started going out and filming these things. So I've got a lot of video footage of like UFOs, you know, sort of like alien craft. Me getting zapped by a UFO I'm filming, I get zapped by this object. It shoots down like 6 balls of light at me, you know. Filmed like flying men, dolphins in the sky, you know, quite a lot of different UFOs, you know, over the years. And still do. So, you know, I mean, that's about it, really. I mean, you know, being taken and put into a military unit, you know, to fight alongside these aliens against their enemies, you know, and that's really, you know, what I was in the unit, Omega unit, and we're T, which is telepaths. But most of the telepaths that look after that planet and look after the bases for the aliens that abduct us, I won't use the names or anything, are all women. And the specialists are all women because the women from Earth, they have the ability to be able to see these Dragos and the other aliens at least some of them are 15 minutes, but mostly 30 minutes before they turn up using the technology, this teleportation system. They know a good 30 minutes before that they're going to come through a certain area. And they're all female, but there's a lot of males as well, but mostly females from Earth are the ones that are the special guards that are trained because they've got this telepathic ability to pick up on, when they're using, or even if they've got through, they know when they're about. So if they've already got through and teleported to an area, they'll know where they are. They can pick them up like that, like radar. They can say, they're around now, they're here. And then they'll look for them. So like I say, but we've been looking for one or two different areas of concern on this planet as well. And what they are special, these areas of interest, which we've been looking for, because there's like secret areas, and they seem to have like some kind of an area where there's like an invisible sort of like fortress. And there's one or two of them apparently on this planet, what we're looking for. And other planets as well. But the ones on this planet, obviously, like to us, we need to find them. There is a school of thought that says wherever there's a battle or a war that starts to take place, that sometimes that some of this technology is being used in these areas, and they try shift it. They try to get out of that area, and move to another area. So that's just a school of thought.
Very good.
So I don't know whether that's any use to you, or if you've got any questions, or
I don't know if anybody has any questions, they can put their hands up, or anybody in the audience can ask, I assume. Anybody has any questions in the chat room, they can raise their hand and I'll let Tom answer. Okay, we got a question from JL, wants to know, what do you think was in the injections?
I'm only having a guess that maybe to stop me from vomiting, maybe a stabilizer, because like I said to you earlier, that really when you look at the reality of this, what is being done is that we're traveling, and it's like we're teleported. You can call it teleportation, time travel, and maybe some kind of stabilizer, for us bodies to travel in this way. I know that I must admit, every time I travel, when I'm taken, when we're using this technology, sort of like I always feel sick. So whether it's to stop us, if from vomiting or whatever, if it's some kind of stabilizer, I'm presuming obviously it's something to stabilize us bodies when we're being teleported or time traveling. If that makes any
Okay,
sense.
and B wants to, oh yes. And B wants to know, were you actually fighting battles? And if so, where on Earth or someplace else?
All over. Oh, we've fought battles on Earth. In fact, we're talking about 5 years ago when we were in Eastern Europe, and I was talking on an internet channel. Didn't go down too well actually, because people that had been previously reasonable to chat to on this station, on this radio show, were just treating me like a fool. And I was saying that, we were wearing a different uniform from that country, And there were people saying, you know, like, you're not from this country, you're wearing these uniforms, you're not from around here, you know.
And C wants to know, why did the aliens choose to use humans for battle? And what are their battles about?
Why are they using us about?
Right.
Well, I know that the specific group that abduct me and a lot of the people from around the world, they're not warlike creatures. So they might look at them, but they're not warlike creatures. And we've been called in to help them, you know, against these people that are trying to destroy their planet and themselves also. Whether it makes it right or wrong remains to be seen. You know, I always have this opinion that, you know, abduction is abduction. You know, it's been taken without consent. But you'll always get the people that have never been abducted, have never seen a UFO, that'll always try telling you, you know, sort of like, oh, well, this is what it's about. Well, how do you know that if you've never been abducted? Yeah. You know, and they're telling us, oh, well, before you was born, you'd said yes to this. How then? How do you know that? You know, for goodness sake, you know, if you've got an answer or you think you have, you know, it's like don't let it go into the realms of stupidity and make believe. You know, sort of like if you're going to answer a question, answer it with some kind of reality. You know, but the problem is with a lot of people, they'll read other people's books on this subject, you know, and then they'll start churning out their BS, their rubbish, you know what I mean? And sort of like it hasn't happened to them and it'll never happen to them. And the thing is, they need to shut their mouths and thank themselves lucky that it hasn't happened to them. Because to be honest, it's not a good thing. I mean, you wake up every day and you're thinking of this subject, you're thinking about aliens day in, day out. And this has been me since I was 16. That can't be good for anybody.
It's like this, you know, unless you wear the shoes, you don't know the whole story.
No. And the problem is, and this is a problem, because of what happened, and, you know, having this memory taken from me, not all of it, but, you know, there's things that I've had taken and I'm wanting the answers back. I was told by somebody, oh, I must admit, I've become to see what what they're saying now after years. You know, it's saying perhaps you don't want to know us. Perhaps you really don't know, you know, and you don't really want to know why. Because it might not be good. I don't like the sound of that, but I can understand what they're saying.
Have you learned has anything positive came out of this? Have you taken anything positive from your experiences?
Trust no one. And if anybody from the government tells you that they know what's going on, right, yeah, don't believe. Don't believe. You know, I mean, we were talking the other day to a TV channel, and they're wanting to see, you know, like video footage. They always want to see video footage, and it always has to be a flying saucer for some reason or a flying triangle. And they were talking about this, oh, you know, you've seen the TikToks, you know, sort of like Tic Tacs, any craft like that. There was, you know, and they're saying new footage like that, new footage. And I'm saying the footage you're talking about is very low grade. You know, it's not very good to start off with. And it comes from 2006. Talking about old footage. There's people, my ex-girlfriend, she filmed a Tic Tac outside my house about 2 years ago. You know, and sort of like and they weren't interested. I don't, sometimes you wonder how these people's minds work. You know what I mean? I've got all sorts of video footage. I've been zapped by UFOs when I've been filming. I filmed like things like dolphins in the sky, and flying men. Sort of like all sorts of very strange, craft. Sort of like, you know. And I'm just starting to go out and film more now. Now it's getting better weather, hopefully.
Anybody in the audience or anybody in the chat room have any questions? I had a question about, you said the video is not any good that you captured?
Sorry, say again, sorry.
Somebody in the chat room said the video that you have is not any good. Is that what you're saying? The video you captured?
The video I captured are up on YouTube.
Okay.
If you put Russ Kelly, Flying Saucer Television, I'm looking at making a new YouTube now. But that's a lot of the old stuff. But now I'm starting to use CCTV camera because there's things around my house. But to be quite honest, CCTV camera's okay, but I prefer to go out and actually look and see something physically in front of my eyes instead of using, surveillance camera. I'm sort of like old school, I think. You get a lot more satisfaction if something turns up when you're out on a sky watch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they say your eyes, ears, and nose are your best tools you have. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Sort of like like you say, it's like radar. You get a radar, you know when they're about. You just know when they're about. They'll turn up if they're gonna turn up, they'll turn up.
question is, why do the aliens choose humans for battle?
Because if you look at humans, there's always been humans fighting wars since time began. From battling just to survive against dinosaurs and other creatures to fighting against other tribes. It's what the people on this planet do, and it's what they do best. And unfortunately, since time begun on this planet, I don't think there's been any time where there hasn't been a war in a country that's taken place right here since time began. It's what humans do best, unfortunately. Killing machines.
If you had to ask, if you had to tell everybody here, one thing about your abduction, one of the most important things, what would you tell them?
An important thing to tell them that these things are real, and they need to stop.
Anybody have questions in the chat room they want to add, or anybody in the audience want to say anything? Have you learned anything from all of this? Is there anything that you gained or learned from all of this over the years?
Well, yeah, that we're not alone. There's something definitely taking people. These things are real, and sort of like there's a war. There's a war going on, and unfortunately, sort of like it's not a nice thing to say, but that's just it. There is a war going on. There's more than one type of alien creature that's involved. There's many, and there's many different countries that are involved in this around the world. And that's why the truth can't come out.
Great. I 100% agree with you. Now, when you were aboard the craft, was there any other humans on the craft with you, or were you solo?
Oh no, there's quite a few. We there's groups of tens and then like groups of 100, and just depending on what we're fighting, what the numbers of the groups, of enemy that we're fighting are, depends on how many people they'll be sent. Whether it's a scout deployment or whether it's a full deployment. you know, sort of like a battle fleet, you know, sort of like going, just depends on what we're coming up against or what we're being sent to. But there could be, you know, 1,000 at least, 10,000, you know, sort of like 100,000. You know, I mean, that's heavy duty though. That is like worst case scenario. You know, that is when, you know, when those numbers are sent out, that means that, you know, there's going to be quite a lot of casualties, which big question is, if there's a lot of casualties, which unfortunately that I've seen, where do they come from? And if they're from Earth, could this equate to the large amounts of people around the world that go missing every year?
Somebody in the chat room wants to know how long were you away fighting? Time
Well,
frame.
it started off when I was 16 years old, up until my late 30s.
All right. So, in your estimation, just a guess, how many different races would you say is out there in our solar system?
Well, I think I'd come across at least 10 different alien races.
And you've met pretty much all 10 of those races up close?
Yeah. Oh yeah, too close for comfort sometimes. I mean, there's 6 different types of one sort of like race, the Dragos, you know, sort of like they're like half human, half dragon, you know, and they're sort of like, you know, 15 foot tall, even bigger sometimes. And there's like there's a green one, there's an orangey coloured one, a white one, and there's like a brownie coloured one. You know, the white ones as well. They're quite vicious. Well, they're all vicious, obviously, because that's. But someone says, you know, like to me, just because something looks evil and big and nasty, don't mean to say that, you know, like it's got bad intentions. It's wanting to survive. It's wanting to do what every other species, you know, sort of like wants to do, and that's stay alive, keep alive. Which you know, I can see that viewpoint. I can understand that.
Great, thank you. So how many other planets do you believe is out there? I know there's talk about other planets just like Earth. Do you believe there's other planets out there besides Earth?
Oh heck yeah! I mean, as far as something that I was looking at, and I remember having a conversation and saying, you know, like about the planets and all the planets inhabited by creatures, and just because they're not like you and me, you know, sort of like humanoid creatures, you know, doesn't mean to say they don't live on these planets. They might be harsh for us to live on, but nevertheless, there is a form of civilization on all of the planets.
How long have these battles been going on for? Christine wants to know.
They must have been going on for a long time. They must have been going on for a long time. You know, which it always makes me wonder why, you know, sort of like, you know, why hasn't something happened? Why hasn't it stopped? You know, I mean, I hear a lot of people talking about this. Oh, what do you call it now? They always come out with these things like there's a big group of it's intelligent aliens all sat around the table for the good of aliens and mankind, and you know, a galactic federation. I can honestly say I've seen nothing of a galactic federation. believe me, seen nothing of anything like a galactic federation. You know?
Right. I know some of the races I've encountered, one of them being the Council of Eight. Have you ever been in contact with the Council of Eight or anything close to
No,
it? No.
no. It's something, like I say, sort of like, I can only really talk about things that have happened and what I've experienced, you know what I mean? If other people have, well, yeah, it's not what I've come across, which always makes me wonder how comes I haven't, if, you know what I mean? I always sort of like wonder, well, how comes? Because a lot of things don't make sense. A lot of things that I read about, sort of like, and I have over the years, I've just, like, it don't make any sense to me, sort of like, why is, you know what I mean? And if it don't make any sense, I just go, well, I'll just put it on back burner until maybe something happens and I can say, well, I can understand that now. You know what I mean? Don't write it off, but don't, put it on back burner, put it up here thinking, right, if something happens now and that comes up, you're going to have to look at it seriously. If that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. So
You know.
looking back at all this, do you have any thoughts as to why you were chosen for all of this? As it, you think you were just centered out for a certain reason, or
There's only one thing I can think of, and it's like I was saying earlier on about my dad. Um, he he was in a unit, and they were working on atom bombs in 50s. And I've got a picture of him, and I've got a picture of him in uniform, and I've got a picture of an atom bomb going off where he was at the time. And he was telling, I only found out in my 40s about this, right? Yeah. Because one of his comrades had come to see him. I didn't even know he were in tank regiment. And I heard a right story, sort of like a lot of laughing and joking as comrades, like, and do you remember this, Jim? Do you remember that? Oh, yeah. Well, do you remember that atom bomb test what you're involved in? Oh, he said, Jim, I'm glad I wasn't involved in any of that. And he says, yeah. And he said, I've got some photographs for you. My dad said, what? And he said, I've got some photographs that I took, and they took around at the time with you in your uniform, and it has atomic umpire on his uniform, and this atom bomb going off. And I mean, like, I just couldn't believe it. So the only thing I can think of, yeah, is it because my dad were in an atom bomb test that it had physiological changes in him? And then because he had a kid with my mum, i.e. me, is that why he's a bit different. Look at he's almost, sort of like radiating, sort of like power from his body. You know what I mean? In other words, radiation. Oh dear. You know what I mean? Could that be why? Something plain and simple as that. Could it be a case of that they've gone, oh, he looks a bit different to the rest of them. Sort of like that's the only reason I can think.
I think you very well could be right. I've done some cases where military people and people who make devices such as bombs and different things have had more visitation than say other people. So
Right. So I think that could be maybe the answer. Why would they want to take me? I don't think I'd make a good soldier anyway. I have too much of a silly side to me. I like jokes. I like a laugh. I'm not into fighting, although I've used firearms. I've got I used to have weapons and what have you for target practice. Like and shooting, that were my favourite hobby. Shooting targets, not people, not animals or anything, targets. I used to love that. You know, but as a soldier, that's not me. You know?
Right. And we're getting close to the end of our time here. Do you have any closing remarks or anything you want to add before we leave?
No, just it's been a great show, and thank you for having me on. And you know, I hope people have some interest anyway. But yeah, it's been a great show, Chris, and thanks for having me on your show.
We appreciate having you here. All of us do. All of us appreciate having you here, and you in the audience in the chat room. Everybody had a great time. Your speech was very wonderful.
Well, thank you very much.
Keep your eyes on the skies, everybody, and we'll see you next time. You're out here. Bye-bye. I have no idea where that